Yeah. You also mentioned in your work the Human Ecology Fund looks a lot like the current organization MAPS.
Yeah.
And it's kind of funny because the show is called the Higherside Chats, and I definitely started it with this psychedelic tone, this branding of like, let's look deeper at things through the lens of taking some psychedelics or smoking a joint and going down the rabbit hole. I mean, that's just how I grew up. But now I get a lot of email requests from people from MAPS and organizations that are studying the therapeutic value of psychedelics. It's like maybe every other month I will get a publisher or somebody sending me an interview request for one of these people. And that's an avenue I've definitely kind of just taken a hands-off approach to. I think there might be value. Like you said earlier, you're neutral. I consider myself neutral. I think that there might be some individualized value in certain aspects of exploration in that department. But when it comes to official groups that look a lot like this shady stuff from the past, I'm not really looking to do full 2-hour interviews promoting the use of this kind of stuff, especially in a professional quote unquote setting that is really tied to intelligence. It's a
Yeah.
sketchy kind of thing. I just want to stay away from it. I don't want to lead anyone down a bad path.
Yeah. Thanks for bringing that up. Yeah. In my book, I show more evidence, but I show some evidence in my film, Drugs as Weapons Against Us. But in my book, I show more evidence of all these links between the Human Ecology Fund and MK Ultra and the MAPS, Multidisciplinary Association of Psychedelic Studies, as well as the Hefter Institute. And the third one's the British Institute called, I think it's started by Amanda Fielding, called the Beckley Institute and the Beckley Foundation. And Countess Amanda Fielding is an aristocrat who started her group, and I argue it's just an extension of the Tavistock Institute, which basically was a forerunner of this stuff, working with U.S. intelligence from the British, with the British angle on all this for MK Ultra. And there's just, they're doing some stuff now. If psychedelic mushrooms has a good effect on someone, great, that's fine. But I think it's really, their ultimate goal is to push MDMA, ecstasy, on people to hurt their brains, and to push acid on people to hurt their brains, and hurt the brains of the masses that could rise up against the tyrannical ways that they're trying to push on us in a major way, which is such as killing 200,000 cows in Ireland under the guise of stopping climate change. It's just fucking bizarre. I'm sorry to cuss. I hope it doesn't mess your ratings up or whatever.
No, it's all good. We're in the private hour now anyway, so we're allowed
to be a little crazy. Killing all the cows, ruining farmers' lives in the Netherlands, so forcing them to go and dump manure all over the capital because they're just trying to ruin their lives, killing off farms. It's just, people have got to question this stuff. It just doesn't make sense that one of our two main elements of our atmosphere, carbon dioxide, is killing us. It's just too much. It's just too hard to fathom. And you got top Nobel Prize winners, and even the founding head of Greenpeace saying this is a different agenda. This is not a environmental agenda anymore. It's someone else's agenda they're pushing on us, and it looks like it's eugenics agenda to depopulate, really. And the World Economic Forum's head, Klaus Schwab, I'll show in my next film, has Nazi roots. So
yes, yeah, we've been down that rabbit hole for sure. And this is something I was going to ask you about, because your work is under the Progressive Left Press / Progressive Left Productions banner, and a lot of your work goes into the established weaponizing of drugs against the left and left-leaning activists, everything we've talked about. Mm-hmm. But what are your thoughts on what's called the progressive left today, supporting the war in Ukraine, inviting in the World Economic Forum climate change policies, being totally captured by the COVID op? It seems like anyone who traditionally leaned left, like I would say I used to, doesn't really recognize their values anymore.
Yeah, they're really, it's hard to define what left and right means anymore. So yeah, my the name of my company is pretty obsolete. You know, my film company is pretty, is like, doesn't mean anything anymore, sadly, because mainstream media has convinced people all kinds of things, especially, you know, as you say, the so-called left is now convinced to be pro-war, and they're convinced to be anti-people, that, you know, anti-farmers, anti, you know, whatever, anti-livestock, anti things that, you know, there's just no way you're going to convince me to kill 200,000 cows and saying that's going to save the world, you know, in Ireland, just in Ireland alone. It it's just gotten, yeah, absurd. It's sad, you know. But the TV left and right is a joke too. You know, Fox and MSNBC and CNN. There's a little difference. You know, MSNBC spends about, it seems like 60% of their time talking about, you know, how much they hate Donald Trump, and Fox maybe spends that same amount of time promoting Donald Trump. And really, who cares? I don't know. I you know. They just don't mean anything to me. TV, you know, even Robert F. Kennedy Jr. said that TV network news is really just fake news at this point, because it's network news, it's big money news, and the better news. I mean, there can be something gotten from some TV news, I don't know what, but better news is gotten from selected podcasts, selected journal articles, you know, medical studies. Some newspapers do give some more, you know, in-depth stuff, so you can get some semblance of some facts and observations from some, you know, good newspaper investigations. And you know, and I just definitely look at the foreign press more, and other investigations from more independent journalists, such as globalresearch.ca, which is a Canadian, started by a Canadian professor who had first published in Covert Action Quarterly, which I've written a number of articles for. And Covert Action Quarterly was started by CIA whistleblower Phil Agee, and so it's a more trusted source of some, you know, information. But Global Research does some great work on a lot of these topics, and you know, I don't agree with any site completely, but I think there's a lot of good investigation and observation done in a lot of these sites that show some better information and more interesting facts that I think are better sources of information than the constant opinion of, you know, was there a insurrection on January 6th or not? I mean, you know, it just seems like a lot of theater. I thought it was theater from the start, and then, yeah. And I don't like. I can't say I've never been a fan of Tucker Carlson, but when he says he interviewed the head of police, who said that a number of these January 6th people were, you know, insurrectionists, were undercover agents, and Fox News wouldn't let him put that on air, and then Fox News fires him. I just believe that information. And a police officer who was involved in the insurrection, he was involved in countering the insurrection, says there was a number of undercover agents in that crowd. Why would they lie about that? You know, what do they have to lie about that? I, you know, and see what they gain from lying about that. And that's what it appeared to me. It appeared to be a bunch of theater. Police just, you know, leading this guy with these weird horns on his head, hat with horns on his head, the shaman, whatever, all over the, you know, all over the federal building. But you know, it's, again, I'm embarrassed even talking about it, because it's just not that important. Yet the mainstream news has spent months, or maybe years, we'll say, talking about that event. It was just, you know, it seemed like it was, if it was, you know, of course, if it was black people trying to get into these buildings and breaking a window, you know, people would have been shot. But nonetheless, it's all just theater to me. Political theater diverged from talking about what really went on, you know, in different places, such as the U.S. Coup of Ukrainian elected leaders, you know, that started that whole conflict over there in Ukraine.
Well said. Well said. I just figured I would ask you about the current state of the ideological left, because everything that you've done in your work shows the capture of this and just keeping a lid on any activism in this area. And then I guess the next step would be just to twist it all to support the establishment itself. And it's just, I mean, I almost have to give them a nice little golf clap there, because that seems like a hard thing to pull off, to take anti-establishment, anti-corporate type of people and turn them around like that. And yeah, the whole generation now, the young people, it's really kind of concerning.
It is,
their positions on things. But Also, agents are everywhere. Another thing from your work that should be obvious. If somebody says there were agents on January 6th, there probably were, because there's just example after example of them manipulating certain events. And to come back to drugs a little bit, I have heard people refer to MAPS and this new movement as MK Ultra 2.0. And I find it a little funny that marijuana legalization runs parallel with jacking up the potency and the dabs trend. I know a few people who started going down the dabs road, and one of them was hospitalized for schizophrenia, and the other one kind of fell off the path, I would say. And it's just like, it's like they jack it up for the sole purpose of triggering schizophrenia in people. And I always say, I go in there and the dispensary's like, hey, we got this. It's like 30% THC. I'm like, how about we cut that in half? I have my habit. I have my relaxation protocol, but I don't need to be freaking out in the middle of the night in the way that a 30% THC will make me do. And then there's a cultural thing where in the weed culture where, well, I'm some kind of pussy because I can't handle the 30% THC. And it's like, this is a manipulated sort of thing. It's like, why do you care? Can you believe it, people? A video clip and a peek into how that sweet THC sausage is made. For some people, I'm sure it's nice to put a face to the name, so I started making clips that are a little more YouTube friendly than the full show tends to be. Get the full show on any podcasting platform. I prefer to keep it audio only, so we have a more decentralized distribution for a controversial show, and also so I can edit out the ums and ahs and barking dogs and all the things that happen when a person records in their home environment. And then if you really like the show, you can sign up for THC Plus, and instead of 1 hour interviews, you get the full 2 hour interview for just $8. I think that's a better deal, more of a win-win than asking you to support the show by booking a therapy session or buying generic Viagra. It's getting weird out there, folks. So just go to the highersidechats.com or click the link at the top of any set of show notes, and all your wildest dreams will come true. All right? All right.
The Higherside Chat Show. Greg Carwood, comfort